Can everyone hear? Okay, good. So Ryan, are you able to unmute yourself? There you go.
Yep.
And I think I made you a co-host, so if there's any documents or anything you want to share, you can put that up if you want.
Sure. And if I guess we'll see. We'll see how far into the weeds we want to get, but I will kind of take it as it goes and see what people are interested in seeing. I mean, I can share pro formas and stuff if that's what's requested, or we can keep it to the 10,000 foot view if need be. I guess that's my cue to jump right in then.
Yep.
All right, well, thanks. For those who I don't know, my name is Ryan Zemick. I work for the Lake of the Woods Economic Development Authority. Thank you for sharing some of your agenda time with me. I cannot imagine how crazy it must be right now for school board members and school officials. So thank you for giving me some brief time on your agenda. I'm here today. I wanted to share some information about an upcoming development project in the community and request the school district's participation in what's called tax abatement financing for the project. So with the time you've given me tonight, I'd like to do three things. Give a brief outline of the project, give some information, education about what tax abatement finance is and why we're using it in this instance. And if there is consensus and interest in the project, set up a potential public hearing at the next school board meeting to consider the tax abatement policy, and at that time would be move forward with that process. So just starting with the project in itself, in June of this year, the owners of Lakewoods Foods contacted me about an upcoming expansion they've got. And this fall, they're planning on 2.9, probably $3 million when it's all said and done, expansion there at their current site, right downtown Badet, right across from Willie Walleye. And basically everything but the bones of the store are going to be changed. They're going to reorientate the parking lot. They're going to put in a Caribou Coffee with a drive-through. They're going to build out the deli, the meat section, the fresh section. Pretty much everything that you can do within the existing footprint of the building. As they started looking at the engineering and architecture of the building, they were seeing some pretty significant cost overruns compared to what their initial budget was in, especially just the reorientation of the building and redoing the parking lot and those sorts of things. Those things that you can't really get a return on investment in. And so they asked me what kind of tools Lake of the Woods Economic Development had to help. Generally, when businesses come to me, what we use is what we call our gap loan funds. And for those who aren't familiar, in a nutshell, what happens is if a business goes into the bank and they've got a $100,000 project and the bank is only comfortable doing $80,000, we come in with that $20,000 and take a second position, sometimes even a third, depending on what the project is. Due to the scale of this project at almost $3 million and what our limited cash available to lend in the community is, it's just not a really good tool for that project. Additionally, because they're a retail establishment, they're not very eligible for anything from a state or federal level. Most state and federal level loan programs, incentive programs, tax programs, whatever you call them, all look for things like technology, manufacturing, those sorts of businesses. So when we're looking at what's available, we kind of came back to tax abatement. And just real quickly, I can get into, I'll answer a bunch of questions on this, but I'll just kind of give maybe a brief overview. Tax abatement is not an actual abatement of taxes. Instead, it's more functions as a maybe a freeze of the existing property taxes. So the property owner will pay the taxes that are due, and a portion of those based on the expansion will be remitted back to the property owner at the end of the year and the terms of the agreement. And so in this case, The business is looking at its current taxable value, according to the auditors, about $575,000. After the expansion, it's going to be 1.5 million. So it's almost going to double or triple rather in its taxable value, which we'll see at the same time as all this cash going into the project, those tax rates going up at a similar proportion. And so what the owner has requested as part of this is that for a portion of time, an agreement with the taxing district, the school district being one, the city of Baudette being the second, and the county being the third, a portion of those taxes are basically frozen at the original value for an agreed upon length of time. If there's interest in this, and if you choose to move forward, kind of what needs to happen is I can help draft a resolution. That resolution will indicate the terms, the amount, the length, and also the public benefit, why the school district sees fit that this project is good for the community in general. And that publication, or there would have to be a public hearing. In this day and age, my understanding is everything I've read is a Zoom meeting can be a public hearing. So it doesn't have to necessarily be an in-person kind of thing. And so the next school district meeting could be that meeting. But looking at the project right now, based on the school district's tax rate of about 28.085%, what this would look like is the existing tax rate. I'm sorry here. I apologize. I wrote down everything but your existing tax that you're pulling from the project. What this project would do was increase the taxes due to the school district just based on an estimation of the future property value by about $5,688. So your existing collection would not go down, but what you'd be agreeing to do would be essentially abating a portion of that $5,688 for an agreed upon time. And that's frankly up to you. I think some of you might have heard of TIF or tax increment financing before. There's one I'm aware of in the county right now. What would happen in that case is a TIF automatically includes all the taxing districts. A tax abatement, I think, is a much more democratic tool because it requires agreement by all the taxing districts in the area. So that's my quick 5-minute overview, and I guess I would turn it over to more specific questions, thoughts, anything like that I can help with.
Tim Lyon, question, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, what's a traditional deferment or abatement? 2 years, 5 years, what are we looking at?
So by statute, they can go up to 15. And thanks for that question. The city right now has moved forward with a 10-year abatement. Just because they're moving forward with a 10-year abatement doesn't tie the school district to anything. I'll tell you this from the city's perspective. They've been really interested in seeing reinvestment downtown. And so the fact that there's going to be $3 million, frankly, is about more than the last 5 years combined in building permits downtown. And so they're very interested in this and supporting this. And so they've chosen to go with 10 years, and that's going to be their portion of the abatement. So the school district could, ultimately say we're more comfortable with 5 or 7 or whatever length that the school district is comfortable with.
All right, and if we say 5 years and they come to us in 5 years and say, can we keep this going for another 5, and we see the benefit of it from a community standpoint, can we then pony up for another 5 years?
It's a really, really good question, Tim. I believe you can. One of the things I, as somebody who does economic development for a living, like about this more than TIF is there's some flexibility. If this was a TIF frankly, that the developer and owner of this building couldn't put a shovel in the ground till everything was agreed upon. With tax abatement, you do have some flexibility to do some after the fact agreements. So I think that, yeah, I think you could do a 5-year, let's say, and then say, you know, we want to take a look at this after 5 and then do a renewal on it.
So Ryan, that document you sent us, that 8-year no back-to-back abatement, that'd be under a different circumstance.
Yes, and I apologize. So the original agreement, the city, as I said, has kind of been in the driver's seat on this. They have a consultant who's putting their development agreement together, and I agreed I would work with the city and this consultant to share this with you. I would ultimately turn this over to them to put the agreement together. So if there's numbers that don't jive with what I'm saying, they might be because it's I'm looking here through my notes of what I sent you, Jeff, and I'm just trying to grasp what I.
It's like on page 3 of that memo that you sent me.
Okay.
And I think the board, I shared it with the boards. They have the same document.
Okay.
It's under project qualifications, tax abatement.
Let me just pull up that document. So I'm looking at the same thing you are, Jeff. My apologies. I had this some of the other documents open right now, such as the project layout and such like that. So give me 2 seconds. I apologize.
No problem.
All right. So I have. So on page 3, I'm looking at.
And that's of the city document, right?
Yep. Yeah. So cities, counties, school districts, and combined jurisdictions may grant an abatement for no longer than 15 years. 8 years maximum if no initial duration is specified, or no longer than 20. Okay. So yeah. So what that's saying is there are some of these projects, as Tim kind of asked, that are somewhat open-ended. And it gives and frankly, those are cases where we're talking about multi-million-dollar things, like in larger municipalities. And oftentimes those are done with like bond financing and stuff. This would really actually put the onus on the developer, where anything that comes back in to him requires him to reach that taxable value. And from the standpoint of the city and the neighboring property owners, having your neighbor triple his property values is generally good for you if you're trying to sell, or if you're the city who's trying to levy taxes. And so in that case, yeah, there is an opportunity to leave it open-ended. And then that's what that's saying is, yeah, it can go up to 8 years if it's open-ended. And my sense is that's probably not, I mean, you're certainly willing to take that approach if you'd like. I think that being able to budget and have a sense of when this sunsets might be in the best interest of all 3 taxing districts, but that's ultimately not my call. Other questions? I know this isn't, and I really wanted to make sure I could, as I said, from a process standpoint, it wouldn't have to be at the next school district meeting. That would it would give you plenty of time to draft a document, put that out, and announce the public hearing. And I know this isn't school business. I know this is sort of outside of what you typically do at these meetings. So please let me know any questions you might have. And
Say, Ryan, I do have a board member here. Lynn Ellis has a question. I think we
Sure.
got her mic situated. So go ahead, Lynn.
Brian?
Can you hear her?
Can you hear me, Brian?
I can, yes.
Okay, so just to ask, like when the city is giving it a 10-year abatement, is that their amount for 10 years or does that amount increase since they're only doing it for 10 years?
So the abatement will be agreed upon for 10 years with the city. What they're doing, I mean, just to let you know, so the city is going to finance about $100,000 at the end of the day as part of this project. As I said, what the developer was really interested in is a way of financing the non-revenue generating improvements to the property. It's one thing if he puts money into his store and it's in a meat department that all of a sudden he's increasing his meat sales. It's another thing to put that money into the parking lot and reorientating the building and stuff where it's going to be harder for doing a return on investment. And so the city, yes, the city is going to ultimately do about $100,000 at the end of the 10-year, and it comes out to $10,713 a year. And this is again based on that estimated new taxable value of $1.5 million.
So a simplistic question, Ryan. $5,300 is what the school is getting in terms of tax revenue from that store the way it is right now, or roughly that. I won't quote you on the number. If we say, nah, we're not going to back them in terms of forgiveness or abatement, or if we say we do, and they go ahead and decide not to go ahead with the project, bottom line is we still have the same amount. We just have a store that probably isn't contributing any more to the local economy than it is right now.
The second part of that is true. And again, I was trying to run the math here really quick. That $600, as you mentioned, that is the proposed increase in taxes that would happen as a result of this project. I can't tell you the dollar amount specifically right now without me doing a little math here, and I could try to do it quick.
You don't need to do the math. My point again is if we say, no, we're not going to do that, we're going to have the same amount into the school coffers, whatever that is. If we say, yes, we'll go ahead and forgive them, we're going to have the same amount of the school coffers plus a viable local business is the way I'm looking at it.
Correct. So yeah, you would not be giving any money away. It would not change your future income. You'd still be at that baseline is what they call it. So whatever this baseline is now, you'll continue to collect that amount. The agreement would be for, as I said, the new taxable value and what proportion of that you are willing to abate. And so, yeah, you're right. It's not changing your income. And in my line of work, where I told Jeff this before, I don't think I would come to you guys, on a willy-nilly kind of small project that I didn't think would make a lot of sense. Across northern Minnesota and frankly all of rural Minnesota and the upper Midwest, downtowns are having a tough time. They're dealing with this COVID stuff. They're dealing with Amazon. They're dealing with the Walmarts in Deer Falls and Bemidji, frankly here. I think that this is the right project for this tool. I understand that this is one of the most critical things a political entity does is set tax policy and collect money and then use that for the public good. And so I'm not asking without sort of, I guess, honoring that. So I do think that this is a way of keeping a business strong and hopefully there's some, I would say, development related to that. Seeing that kind of development might be the thing that moves another business to make sort of similar investments.
This is Boyd Johnson here. I've got a question. So the city's looking at 10 years. So would that kind of, I mean, if presumably we could follow, that's what we'd follow. So then would the amount the school would forego, because you really are, we're losing money on the value of a property tax. So it is what it is. You can call it tax abatement, but then it would be 10 times the 5,688. So it'd be roughly $57,000.
Mhm. Yeah, so it would be whatever, that's the annual estimated portion. So it would be that times whatever amount of years the school district did or did not choose to move forward with.
So Ryan, real quick, can you go through the timeline again? Would we need to do the public hearing in September, or if there's another meeting that the board would need more time to discuss this? What's kind of timeframe are we looking at?
You certainly have more time to discuss this. We run into a little bit of where the kind of rub is I think that, so the city's moving forward, and they, I believe, have their I can double check. I believe at the beginning of like September 12th or something like that, the city is actually going to vote on passing that resolution and offering that tax abatement agreement. The county is meeting on the first Tuesday in September for a work session on this. You could certainly go out to October. It gets a little, when you come down to the idea of offering, I guess, making an agreement. If you're in October, I think the developer would like to have a shovel in the ground by then, certainly with the winter coming up. So there's maybe some timeline stuff there, but at the end of the day, because tax abatement's flexible, if you want to go out to October, I think that's and that's what makes you comfortable. I think we can do that.
Well, I'll leave that up to the comfort of the school board and what they want to do as far as moving forward with this. So,
It would be the end of October if we. didn't
yeah, it
take
would be,
action at the
yeah.
next meeting. It would be.
I think they're a month.
I might have missed what you were saying there, Corinne, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't hear Corinne either. I saw her lips moving, but I couldn't hear her.
End of October before we would be able to act, correct? That's what your statement was? Okay.
Yeah.
My question is, what is the typical response, Ryan, to these types of abatement proposals by school boards in general? I mean, does it depend on the size of the project or the type of project, or, I mean, is there any typical response, or is it all over the board?
So it's really is a case by case basis. For a lot of reasons, both from the people who have to write the legal documents on this and people in my shoes who do the economic development side of things. People like TIF because it doesn't give people the choice. So if this was TIF eligible, and there's a bunch of reasons it's not, and it goes into some pretty murky state statute stuff about building values and what is and what isn't considered a blight area. Typically, if this was eligible for TIF, it would have been done TIF, and frankly, you wouldn't have had much say in it. It would have, if the city would have adopted it as a TIF district, it would have, and I think there's one actually, one of the resorts before my time was built in as a TIF district. So I think you're already involved in that, whether you know or not. Where abatement comes in, and this is why it's such a case by case basis, is because each entity is kind of asked to consider the project's increase or preservation of the tax basis? What is sort of the catalytic activity that's going to happen afterwards? Does this provide employment opportunities in the subdivision? Does it help or does it help redevelop or renew, downtown in this case? And so I think that's why it's so hard for me to say what a different school district was. Jeff maybe has had some conversations or may not have with other superintendents, and I don't know if you have. He probably would know more than I would, frankly, because I've only talked to one other school district about this in my life.
No, I have not reached out to my superintendents in the area, but that's certainly something I could send out an email and see what information they have.
It looks like from the document that you sent out, Ryan. Ryan, based on the document that you sent out, it looks like there's not a lot of school districts that participate, probably a little over 10%.
And that, which page is that on? I'm sorry, I apologize.
She's using the House Research short subject document
Oh, sure, yeah.
that you shared out.
I was gonna say that, yeah, it's, and that I guess answers the question better than the answer I gave you before. I understand, I understand why school districts would be hesitant to adopt these sorts of things, given that you're always more, frankly, I get it, you always have more needs than resources available, so it's a tough decision, and I don't want to act as if this isn't a tough decision for you guys. So
Can you hear?
Can you hear me?
I can now. I didn't hear the first part of that.
You get the mic close.
I'll just move my mic closer. I guess I just want to go back to what Boyd had mentioned with that $5,688 a year. Is that what we're forgoing, that amount? So
Based on the increased
yeah,
value,
so
is what I'm understanding.
yeah, it's not that it's minus what we're currently, but that is the amount we would forego annually.
And that would be, you'd be foregoing it if the project is completed. If it's not completed, then that's, so part of it is creating, encouraging some development to create a bigger tax base as well. So there's a give and take there. So that's something to keep in mind. Because if you don't do it and they don't do the improvements, you've lost that increase for your taxes. So.
But we don't need to lock in as long as maybe the city or the county would either. We can do our own.
No, that's a very good point, and it's one I've made to the city, county, and now you. Each taxing district can look at this as a different piece. If the school district says, geez, we've got a lot of needs. We're a smaller school, and our resources are limited, and we'd like to encourage this, but we can only go to 5. That's totally available as an option. So it makes things maybe a little cleaner to go the same length as the other taxing districts, but don't feel compelled to do that because that's what the city has chosen.
This is Boyd again. So Is the inference here that the developer won't do the project if the tax abatement doesn't get passed?
It's not my place to say. I guess gun to my head. I think especially with the city on board, there'll probably be something one way or another. But I can't say that for sure because it's not my decision to make. I can tell you from, and maybe this sounds silly, the city sort of leading the way on this process and being, I guess it being, having skin in the game was almost philosophically as important to the developer as it was financially. The fact that you know, they were willing to work with him and you know, as he sort of, you know, saw this budget grow and grow and grow, I think that him seeing that the community was a partner was important for him.
Okay, anything else?
I would leave you with this. I think that you know, I understand that this is it's tough for you guys to make a decision hearing this right now. If October makes sense, you've got plenty of time. I believe you've got by statute. I don't know if the school district's different. My understanding is by statute, though, from other political subdivisions, it's a public hearing has to be posted more than 10 days and less than 30 days. And then that's got to be in, you know, the paper of record or wherever that you do advertise those. You could certainly communicate back with me after some consideration and, you know, whether it's the superintendent and the board chair or something like that, have some conversations about, I don't know if you guys have, I suppose at a 5-person board, you don't have an executive committee. But if there is some other form to sort of say, hey, we want to consider this and really look into what this means for us the next 10 years, I can be responsive, whether that's a September meeting or an October meeting. Just let me know.
All right,
Okay.
well, I guess we'll look at probably addressing it at the September meeting.
Okay.
That would work.
Now, if you're going to have a public hearing and make a decision in September, so I would, I don't know what, doesn't hurt to have a 10-minute discussion right now and see where people are at, or if you need more information, that'd be one thing. But if we're sitting and we kind of have an idea what direction we want to go.
Schedule them, you schedule the public hearing at our regular board meeting.
Or I would schedule a special working session to discuss this before September would be another option.
I think that might, I'm trying to read the room here, and I think that might be, if everyone is, I guess, willing to give up a little bit of their time. The two things that you're really going to want to, especially if I think if there is consideration of not necessarily just kind of following a 10-year and full abatement, is that in that public hearing and that resolution that you'll adopt or will or will not adopt, you'll have to indicate the terms from the amount, and that amount is basically a percentage, you know, 0 to 100, and then the length 0 to 15 at legally. And so if it makes more sense to have a brief working session to kind of get consensus on that, I understand that it can be kind of tough now that I put you guys on the spot. So, but to have that public hearing, you're going to want, I think, some consensus on the term.
Has Jeff Burcham been in contact with you with any questions about it?
No, not that I can remember, maybe.
I have another question.
Yeah.
This is Lynn. Say, you mentioned the public benefits. Do you have like a list of the public benefits that we could, just have, so we could think about that from the perspective of making the decision?
Yeah, so there's essentially a you get a checklist, and it's kind of all that apply. And I think it's up to and I can make the case on why a couple of these are specifically important. But it has to meet at least one of these criteria. And I mentioned these earlier, but I'll maybe say it a little slower. So it's increase or preserve the tax base, provide employment opportunities in the subdivision, help or acquire, construct public facilities, not applicable in this case, help provide access to service for residents of the political subdivision. Sometimes, they'll say it's in some communities what they call like a food desert, or it's an essential service. There's no other pharmacy in town. There's no other XYZ in town, and losing it would be catastrophic to the community. And then the final one is finance public infrastructure, and this isn't the case with that one. So my sense is, if you want to hang it on the hat, hang your hat on something, it's probably going to be redevelop or renew blighted areas, provide employment, and increase the tax base. I think it does all three myself, but I think that's up to the school board members themselves to decide if those criteria are met.
Thank you.
Jeff, our options for tonight.
Would be to, if the board wanted to move forward, some type of abatement, we could schedule the hearing and come to that meeting with conditions and have that all set up. And Ryan, jump in if I'm saying something wrong, but I mean, we could put options together on, or we'd have a special meeting maybe to discuss options. Or you can just go with the 10-year that the city is doing, if that's.
We don't know what the county is doing yet, but we would know in September. I feel like it would be nice to know.
Okay. So then I would recommend that we set a special board meeting to just discuss this one topic and see where everyone's comfort level is, see what the county is doing. So that when we come to the end of September board meeting, if we're moving forward, we can have the hearing, we can have everything in place and move forward. And I do think it's something that the board should strongly consider doing something for the community. So that would be my recommendation, is that we set a meeting for sometime shortly after the county has theirs. And you said that was in the beginning of September.
It's actually, I believe it's the 8th of that Tuesday, the 8th. So if you
First day of school.
Yeah, you guys are you're starting earlier up there than we are down here.
Yeah. So maybe
Ryan, one more quick question. Ryan?
Yes.
Did I read correctly that two of the three entities have to approve it for any of it to go through? Is that a correct statement, or did I read that wrong?
No, there are issues related to the term based on the number of entities that adopt that. Let me just bring that up because I saw that.
If the school doesn't go, then they would go 20 year. 20 years.
Yeah. So like if the county, and I can just tell you because my sense is that the county is likely to do something similar to what the city's going to do. Frankly, they were at they did the exact same thing that looks like you guys are headed. Is they wanted to make sure there was consensus. So they set up a working session to talk about it rather than adopting it at the last county board meeting. If the school and the county didn't, and the city said, geez, we really want to make sure this project happens, they could then go beyond the typical 15-year term and go to 20. But if the school turns it down or the county turns it down, frankly, the city can still offer it, or vice versa, any of those three combinations.
So I'm looking at Monday, September 14th for a special board meeting. Does that work for everyone?
And should it be a special board meeting or a working session?
Yeah, it's not a special board meeting. It would be just a working session. There would, yeah. Or a board workshop is another term they use. So we'll do a board workshop. September 14th. 6 o'clock work for everyone, or you want to do it earlier? Tim coming off the lake, 6 o'clock on Monday, the 14th, or?
Yeah, I can't promise anything earlier than that, so let's go 6.
6, that works. Okay, we'll get that posted and we'll plan on that and.
We'll do that Zoom again, Jeff.
Yep,
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for your time. I can't imagine how much other stuff you have to talk about. So if anyone has any questions, offline, I think Jeff has my email and my phone number, so he can get that to you. But thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Next, we've got under reports, board committees.
I don't think we've had any board committees.
Yeah.
Finance met today.
We met briefly,
Briefly.
discussed the tax abatement, the budget reports, and talked a little bit about the accounting for the COVID-19 expenses that the school is incurring. And it sounds like Crystal's on top of that, so that's really good. So thought that was important.
And the school force committee did meet in a very small group quickly. Not a whole lot of action, but it was just discussed if there's extra assistance needed for teachers wanting to teach outdoors this fall, that the school force committee might be a resource as far as materials or even just bringing in other specialists if that's possible.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, next we'll move on to the superintendent, elementary principal.
Okay, in the interest of time, I will forego the school survey results. I sent out that in the board packet. Couple highlights that I just will point out. And we still have about 22 households to get a hold of. I'm not sure how many kids that translates to, but we have the majority of the results in. So face-to-face learning, we have about 86% indicating that they will be sending their kids in person. As far as electronic devices, we have about 64% that have their own electronic devices that they can, whether it's a laptop or a Chromebook, that they can use at home or bring in. It's yet to be seen if all those devices will meld with our school platform and logging on at the school and stuff. But that's where we're at with devices. We do have a plan Billy's working on while we're waiting to order our Chromebooks so that kids will have devices when they're at school for the elementary. And we'll have about 80 to 100 available for the high school that need those for those days that they'll be working remotely. About 93% of our high school students have internet access at home. The quality of the bandwidth is always a question, as we all know. So we do have connections. And then with the transportation question, as far as if you can, if you're able to drop off and pick up your child, and if you have children that are old enough to drive, so right around 50% roughly, that's indicated that they could probably transport their child, and about 50% said they still need busing transportation. So when we pull this information out into a spreadsheet, we'll actually have the names of those that said they can transport and those that can't. So that's how we're going to start looking at the bus routes. Face masks, that's going to be a big thing for some families, but about 92% indicated that they didn't think that would be an issue with their child. About 8% said that they were, and the information, there's some that will have to do some accommodations based on health conditions and IEPs. And there was only a couple that indicated something different than a need for that. So. And then those that said they were going to choose distance learning, about 33 respondents. About 84%, 85% of those have access to the internet. There's a few that will need hotspots. We have that list. About 3/4 of them have their own devices that are doing distance learning. And about 35% are requesting meals be delivered. So that's kind of where we're at with that information. Any questions on that? The next thing I have is district cabinet committee. And we've been meeting weekly for some time now. We have 3 parent representatives, and tonight the last action item would be to appoint 2 board members to that committee. And we're going to set the meeting for 6:30 every other Thursday. I think September 3rd, we'd start September 3rd for this big group. But we meet every week, so the staff, department heads and stuff would still meet on those other off weeks. We haven't established a time, but that's kind of what I'm proposing for this cabinet committee, unless there's other recommendations. Safe learning plan, we'll get that posted hopefully by the end of next week, and that's more of a detailed thing, that template from the state of Minnesota for all the different learning models and what steps were taken to meet those different requirements. We'll get a draft out hopefully early next week to everyone to take a look at, and then the final one will be posted on the website. And there'll be one for the elementary and one for the high school. Teacher staff in service starts the week of the 31st. We're adjusting that. We're not doing the big welcome back meeting in the auditorium. We're going to do something remotely and do smaller group staff meetings and avoid those big group gatherings as much as we can. Meet your teacher 7th grade orientation. I will save the 7th grade orientation for the high school principal to talk about how we're going to do that. Meet your teacher. We're going to kind of do it scheduled like we do for parent-teacher conferences. And the classroom teachers will send out a sign-up form, and teachers or parents will be able to select a day and a time to come in with their child and check out the classroom, meet the teacher. We're going to try to spread that out so we don't have a large group of parents and students in one classroom at a time. So that's how we're going to run meet the teacher. And that's about all I have, unless there's questions.
No questions? Okay. Move on. High school principal, Mary Marchell.
Good evening, everyone. High school teachers and myself have been having weekly meetings since I started in the beginning of August. A lot of time spent answering questions, going through different scenarios. They've been preparing for the hybrid model where we have half the students in each day. The custodians have already prepared all the high school classrooms, so when the teachers come in, they will see their room with the desks or chairs spaced out accordingly for whatever the maximum number of half the kids on any given day would be in their room. So they were quite thrilled that they wouldn't have to figure that one out. The PBIS team, it's amazing the work that they've done and how they are prepared for the upcoming school year. When I look at this past school year, how much work they put in to get ready for this year, it's amazing. Posters are ready to go for each of the different skills that'll be focused on, and we're talking elementary and secondary. And then on the high school end of things, our student council is going to prepare videos. And it's no longer a surprise to them because they had a meeting that started at 5 o'clock with Mr. Sather, the 4 officers. And I went and met with them. So terrific group of ladies that happens to be all 4 of our executive officers. And they are all on board to get the videos ready to help teach each of those skills to the students. And with that meeting also homecoming was addressed. And so our officers are going to reach out to our student bodies because we know it will have to be different. And part of the conversation is, do we want to still look at having something in the fall? Some schools are having the conversation of, since football and volleyball is moved to the spring, do we want to move homecoming to the spring? So we're going to leave part of that up to the direction of our student council. Regardless of what we decide when homecoming will be, we had the conversation, Mr. Sather and I, with the student council, that we think it would be important to, regardless, do some kind of spirit week this fall. So whether it's homecoming or we call it something else, there will be something we're going to look at doing this fall, knowing that it'll be a different format. But you know, you need that school unity, you need that school spirit, especially after we've all been so disconnected. We are going to focus on doing some activities with the staff and the students in the community. My weekly principals meetings, I'm participating with the Northern Division, so great group to get connected and start to meet the principals in our surrounding schools so that we're all sharing that conversation of how we're addressing the different issues. I have a letter that I'm going to be sending out to families. Part of it will be just to our 7th graders regarding 7th grade orientation. You know, our gym is big enough that we can bring everybody in, but after really thinking about it, I'm going to do 2 different sessions for our 7th grade orientation that evening. I think it would just be a good practice to realize we don't want to be tempted to get so close together and be crowded. So we'll do half and half, and even with that, I'll divide it alphabetically, A to K and L to Z, and that way they'll also be getting together that evening with the classmates that they'll be seeing on the same every other day basis. And so most of the format for 7th grade orientation that night will be pretty much the same, meeting the teachers. I am asking all the teachers to come into the gym that evening to meet the students, so that the kids can see the faces of all the teachers in the building, that even if they don't have them this year, I think it's important to know that these are part of their support system. And then also a letter going out to all the families, you know, introducing myself and then saying this is what we're looking at for the school year. A lot of it was shared, you know, the night that we had the town hall meeting, but just to get it down in print for them if they have any questions. Diane did open up student schedules for everybody today, and I'm excited that the kids and parents have been looking at them because we've had some of them call and you made some changes and tweaks as we needed to do for that. So good to see they're looking at those things, and I think as excited as we are for the upcoming school year. Do you have any questions for me?
No, but my daughter will be excited to hear because she's been saying every day, I wonder when the schedules are going to come out.
Oh, great. Tell me now they're ready. Thank you.
On the board agenda, but it's been removed, was the high school grading policy and grading for college level courses. I understand that there's maybe more work to be done. Can you just maybe give us like the path forward or what your timeframes are or, you know?
So walking in and it being on the agenda and, you know, some assumptions made by me. And a couple teachers contacted me with some concerns about it. And I'm not sure how well we communicated everything. And so I felt it's in the best interest that we pull it, that I'm able to meet with the faculty senate, that I can meet with all my teachers so we can really look at it. There's some things like when I read it, I thought, well, it doesn't give enough specifics to me to which classes, because, you know, when it says college, that's a little too broad for me. And so I want to make sure that if we make a decision to make a change, we aren't going to be looking at, oh, we need to make some alterations on it, you know, changes in addition. So I just would prefer that it's pulled, that we can really have everybody's voice involved in looking at it and reviewing it and then proceed from there.
Because I don't think it was that long ago when we made the change. I didn't go back and find out what year it was, but we did have weighted grades at one time. And we went away from that and we spent time and had discussions and we changed that. And it was a pretty big change. And also I think it's prudent to go back and look at why are we going back to something that we changed. So I think that's the biggest thing right there.
And if it did happen to go forward, is there any chance that it would be done this year, or is it to the point where once you get going in the school year, that's it?
No, we could make it effective the beginning of this school year.
Okay.
Yes. Because the first, you know, for college grades especially, they're semester grades.
Sure.
So yeah, to give us the time so everybody's voice says, yeah, there's no problem with, we decide to move forward with this, that it would not be able to be effective the beginning of this school year. Yep.
Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Next is business office, Crystal Olson.
I don't have a lot. I did provide the monthly budget report for June. I sent it to the ones that were not on the finance committee. We're still working on, actually just started today with Region 1 doing our year-end journal entries. And that's all I really have right now. So I guess just if you guys have any questions after you review the report, the ones who aren't on the finance committee, you can just let me know. And our audit this year too is going to be all electronic, unless the board would prefer them to come on site 1 or 2 days like they did in the past. So I guess that's up to you guys, and I can just let Bailey know for sure, as far as if you prefer that. Otherwise, they have already started doing some school audits electronically, and it seems to be working well. So
I'd recommend that we stay with remote.
Trend.
Hey, maybe do we get any kind of a refund for?
I guess I could ask, since they're not coming.
And they won't, like, I would assume they normally would bill for their travel and. so
Yeah.
just
Yes, that's a good point. So I'll have to ask about that part. And then tomorrow, I will be attending the county board meeting because they're going to be discussing their CARES Act money. And as far as hopefully they will be able to transfer some to us. But we'll see.
Let us know if you need anything for that.
So that's all I have unless anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Crystal. Moving on to Activities Director, Chad Hazelton.
Hello. Not a whole lot to report. We've got cross country's up and running. There's 9 participants, 7 boys, 2 girls. So they're practicing at 8 o'clock in the morning right now out at the football field, or they've had at least one, I think, that was scheduled at Willie Walleye Hill. So they're up and running. We've got their schedule posted. How they're running their meets is going to be staggered starts. So the first one in Thief River Falls, 3 teams will run at 9 in the morning. 2.5 hours later, 3 more teams will run. 2.5 hours later, 3 more teams will run. So that's how they're working the limit of having a triangular with their meets. We're limited to 7 meets this year. So we're basically just running our abbreviated conference schedule. Questions on cross country? Okay, the State High School League has the fall practice season set to start on September 14th. Volleyball is going to be running 4 practices a week. Football is going to be running 2 practices a week. Volleyball will be from 5 to 7. On the off days, we have a program that we're calling Bear Power, which is a strength and conditioning program that the varsity coaches are getting together to run. There's 3 components to that program. There's a weightlifting program, a cardiovascular program, and a plyometrics program. We're hoping that the cardio and the plyometrics programs can pretty much be done outside for the whole time. So they're limiting each session to each 12 participants in each group, each session. So there'll be 12 for the weight room, 12 for the plyometrics, 12 for the cardio, and then they'll rotate through those 3 sections every 45 minutes or so, I believe. And we're running that program through community ed, not necessarily through athletics. Proposal on there says fall pay for practice coaches. What I'd like to do would be pay them 30% of their salary if they choose to run a fall practice. They don't have to run a fall practice. But if they choose to, they get 30% of their pay in the fall. And then when the spring season completes, then they would get the other 70% of their salary. We also have a situation where we may need to hire a fall practice coach for a level. If one of our coaches decides they don't want to coach during the fall, because this isn't a season that is not mandatory, that we would hire somebody to replace them and pay them 30% of that salary. So Coach A doesn't want to coach in the fall or is over whatever the reasons are. We hire Coach C, comes in. Coach C gets 30% of Coach A's salary, and then Coach A would get the rest when they complete the season in the spring. Crystal and I had talked about that. Crystal, did I hit all that pretty well?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I'd also work with Crystal. We'd write up a job description for the fall practice coach because that's a new position that we don't currently have a job description for. So we'd write up a quick job description for that. Anything else?
So if she doesn't do anything in the fall, but does the full slate of practice / games in the spring, the max that coach will get is 70% in the spring.
Correct. Because the thinking behind this is the spring seasons are all shortened by 70% or 30% from what a normal season would be.
Okay, yep, I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, otherwise that's pretty much all I've got. We have our weekly high school league meetings. Discussions about winter sports are going to be starting pretty soon. I know that there's a Section 8 hockey meeting going on right now to talk about what the coaches and what the section want to bring to the high school league. So that Zoom meeting is going on right now. I might try and jump into there after we're done with this if I can. All right.
Moving on then. Thanks, Jeff. We've got buildings and grounds, set what?
I'm not sure if Seth is with us. Let's see his iPhone. I would move on.
Jeff, real quick, I'll chime in something for Seth. The lines are supposed to get painted next week. I'll find out the exact date coming up here once I know. I'll let you guys know so everyone can avoid parking in the parking lot, because they'll do the lines in the parking lot as well as the road.
Yep, sounds good.
Thanks, Boyd. All right. Next would be community ed and transportation, Brent Cole.
Hey everyone, hope you can hear me.
Yep.
For transportation, we had our school bus drivers in service today. That went well. We had Sergeant Kelly Johnson of the State Patrol show up, and he gave a presentation. Janelle Lowe's did, and she talked about student behavior and PBIS. And I thought it went well, and we learned a lot this morning. The routes, I have most of our survey results in, so this next day or two, I'm going to put all the routes or put all that information together and create a routes so I can disperse that to our drivers next week, and we can start making phone calls to parents next week. And that's for community ed. Only thing we have going so far this fall is our Bear Power program that we're going to run Mondays and Thursdays. So not a lot. Any questions?
Thanks, Brent. And we've got food service, CC. CC, looks like you're muted. I'm not sure if you're on or not. Oh, there she is.
That was me. Cece, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Renew applications went out. I'm already getting some back. And the Ed Plus will be going out tomorrow. Ed Plus newspaper, and hopefully I'll get it back next week, beginning of next week, and mailed out. So that's all I have.
Anything else? If not, we will adjourn into the session and move on to the board meeting. Board 7:14.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that. Motion by Sondergaard, second by Ellis. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Ellis. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Kraus. Aye. Sondergaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
And Richmond is absent. Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes minutes, invoices and statements, personnel resignations, Tina Lorette, paraprofessional, Karis Musker, enrichment coordinator, Megan Slick, paraprofessional, appointments, Brooke Crocheting, paraprofessional, JP Sweet, cross-country coach, Nyla O'Connell, elementary teacher, Diane Carlos, enrichment coordinator and bus driver, Adriana Nylander, elementary teacher, Camille Massaro, elementary teacher. Tilly Thompson, paraprofessional. Caitlin Maddow, paraprofessional. Keith Brandt, paraprofessional, and Jennifer Otto, paraprofessional. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Ellis, and second by Sondergaard. Any discussion? Okay, call for a vote. Ellis. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Trask. Aye. Sondergaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Motion passes. Board presenters? None. Communications? None. No old business. Now on to new business. Looking for a motion to approve setting the truth and taxation hearing on December 14th, 2020 at 7 p.m.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Would that be located?
It'll be here. Yeah.
All right. Call for a vote. Ellis. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Trask. Aye. Sondergaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the 2020-2021 Coaches Handbook.
Motion by Lyon.
Second by Johnson.
Second by Johnson. Any discussion? Okay, call for a vote. Ellis. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Trask. Aye. Sondergaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve resolution 2020-2021-003 relating to the election of school board members and calling the school district general election.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that. Motion by Sondergaard, second by Ellis. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Ellis. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Trask. Aye. Sondergaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the first reading of policy 808 COVID-19 face covering policy.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Sondergaard,
Second by Johnson.
any discussion? Call for a vote. Ellis. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Trask. Aye. Sondergaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve resolution 2020/2021-04 relating to the election of school. Is that right?
Yep.
School board
This is
members?
for a special election.
Okay.
This is for Jeff Burchin's seat, which
Thank
comes
you.
up. Yep.
That'll be redundant. relating to the election of school board members and calling the school district special election.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Ellis, second by Sondergaard. Any discussion?
So this would just appear, although it's a special election, it will look
It'll still be
just
on.
like
Yep,
a part of the ordinary ballot.
yep. It's a special election because it's just the remaining 2 years of the term,
Okay.
where the other ones are full terms.
Being a special election, did that have to fall under the parameters of having been signed up by the 11th of August like the rest of them?
I think the dates were all the same. Yep.
And did you get some filings?
We have one filing.
I think that was named in the.
It's in the board packet. It's Carla, and she's gonna be mad at me because I'd never say her last name right.
Is it robot?
Is it Robada? She'll let me know tomorrow if I didn't say it right.
I'm not
Ribido or Robada, I just can't get that name in my head right, but I better figure it out soon, so. It has filed.
So it's a special election, although she filed before the date, so it can fall within the parameters of the normal
Yeah,
balloting.
it will-
Otherwise, it would have had to been at a special time. correct?
Yes, yeah.
Anything else on that? Call for a vote. Ellis?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Sondergaard?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve resolution 2020/2021-005 to accept the donation from health.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Motion by Sondergaard, second by Ellis. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Ellis?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Sondergaard?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Passes. For a motion to approve resolution 2020/2021-006 to accept a donation from Lavonica Lutheran Church.
I'll make the motion.
Sondergaard,
I'll second.
Second.
Go ahead, give it to Tim.
okay, give it to Tim. Second by Lyon. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Ellis?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Sondergaard?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Motion passes. Motion, or looking for a motion to approve the engagement letter with Auditor I. Bailey LLP.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Sondergaard and Ellis. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Ellis.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Trask. Aye. Sondergaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we're looking for a motion to appoint 2 board directors to the district cabinet committee for the 2020-2021 school year. And this was the 2 meetings per month. No, yes. Thursdays.
You're welcome to attend the other ones too. You come every week on Thursday, but one will be more geared for school staff. cabinet and supervisors on the off Thursdays, but every other week will be the full-blown committee at 6:30.
I'd make that motion.
Oops, it's not a motion.
Are you volunteering?
No, we're waiting for discussion topic.
Okay.
The motion by Ryan.
Second by Johnson.
Now we can appoint someone.
No discussion.
Doing it backwards, but I
I
didn't
can
write it up right.
serve, but I don't have to.
I can't.
I guess without trying to sound like I'm backing up, like Lynn said, I'm willing to do it, but I think it'd be more appropriate if we had somebody who had kids in the school so that there was a little bit of a feel the pulse of what's going on kind of a thing. I mean, we're sort of trying to address stuff as it comes up here in the immediacy of the time.
Sounds like you and me, Corinne.
Yeah, well,
There's 3 parents on the committee as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robin already said no.
no, oh, no, I said, I didn't say no, but,
Okay.
I would be willing to, as my, I'm assuming that the meetings, well, once school starts, I suppose they will be
At 6:30.
at 6:30, so then.
Well, then I can nominate Robin and Corinne.
I figured Bertram wasn't here. He was a shoo-in.
It doesn't, I would be willing to, but I certainly don't need to, so.
In reality, it sounds to me like it's that time constraint. I would be able to do it if there's no one else who really wants to do it. I mean, that every other week thing at 6 o'clock, was it, Jeff? Yeah, so I mean, if anyone else really wants to do it, go for it.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to be the stand-in if the schedule doesn't work. Like I said, I just thought it'd be right with parents. So.
And maybe at some point the group might decide that once a month is plenty at 6:30. It's just, I want to get a flavor for it and get people on board and get their input.
Jeff, do you
start
have
the year.
parents on?
Yeah, I have Gary Moeller, Diana Fish, and Christina Matthias are the 3 parent volunteers. So I just thought maybe twice a month at 6:30 to start off, and we might quickly decide that once a month is plenty. Or we can put you all on it and just make it a public board meeting every other week too.
Yeah, I'm waiting for somebody to step in. Otherwise, I'm going to say, put me on it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Since no one's saying anything, I'm willing to do it.
Hear us,
Oh.
obviously.
Oh, I said that I could.
I
Can you
said
hear
that I
me?
could.
Lynn said she can, Robin said she can. Boyd and Tim both said they will. Corinne will too,
Can I
so.
throw Boyd and... All right, can I throw Boyd and Robin on that just because they got the kids and they're willing to do it, and let's see what happens? Is that fair?
Sure.
I'm not sure if Boyd was thrilled about the after 6 o'clock meeting.
No, that's fine. As long as it's not Friday at 6.
I'll accept.
Okay, Robin accepted.
Yeah, I'll do it.
And if it does become problematic, you can just,
Yeah, you can always
Yeah, like,
ask for,
If it was during the workday, sometimes those are hard, but,
yeah.
but evenings, usually I can accommodate that.
Okay.
Okay, so how does that motion work now?
We have a motion and a second to appoint Robin Sonstegard and Boyd Johnson to the District Cabinet Committee.
We had a motion by Lyon. Second by Johnson. Can they just amend their motion or put those two names in it?
I would just put the two names in there, Sonstegard and Johnson, and take the vote.
All right, so I'm gonna call for a vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Sorry about that. I didn't hear it. Yes, aye.
sorry, Boyd. Trask, aye. Sonstegard,
Aye.
Lyon,
Aye.
all right, anything else?
I just want to take a minute and thank our three staff members that submitted their resignations, Tina, Karis, and Megan, for their service to the district. So wish them well in their new adventures, so.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else? If not, we'll adjourn the meeting at 7:32.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.